Well, I'll open the meeting then. Call it to order. And it's all on zoning tonight, so if I grab the right paperwork, I'll be all right here. So the first article is to see if the town will vote to amend 17558 general regulations and add the following. E, all freestanding signs identifying the property are required to have the physical street address on them to aid public safety agents in time for an emergency. Said street address may be part of or separate from the sign and shall be included in the calculation of the sign's area. The sign cannot obstruct street lines or to take any other action relative thereto. The fire department has talked to us and said there is a problem because they need an address on the sign. It may say, you know, this place or that place, but if it doesn't have a street number, it makes things difficult. And that's the reason that this is in the, is one of the articles we want to approve. So, the only thing that can be changed is on the next to last sentence, it just has to be corrected to sign area. It's just a misspelling.
It's not really the Sings area?
No. So if that, any comment on that discussion?
Just correct the spelling.
Yep. Is there anything from the public? We haven't. So on the motion, someone want to make that motion?
Motion.
To approve it?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to have it at the town meeting. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All three of us.
Is it worth note to mention that, isn't this the third time we've gone through this?
Yes, it is.
The same, so, all right.
We spent the money on advertising, which costs the town a great deal of money. And we've had these hearings and consistently not many people show up. And at the town meeting, at the last town meeting, it was said that we didn't, there was only 85 people and that's what was the quorum. There should be more. On the other hand, when the vote came up for the marijuana, it needed to be voted on that night. So it's a conflict. And I have no idea why that motion was made and why subsequently when the marijuana issue came up, it had to be done that night. So, and these are fairly simple articles. If someone wants to vote an article down, that's fine. But to not have any one of them come before the town meeting, I don't think that's right. But in any case.
Yeah, I figured it was worth mentioning.
Thank you. You know how upset I was about it.
Yeah, I know.
And it's not just that, it's that, you know, we have to hold these special hearings and
Yeah.
we do.
Yep.
And everyone knows about it on all the boards. To see if the next one is to see if the town will vote to amend 175-4 definitions and word usage by adding the following definition: accessory apartments, see 175321, or take other action relative thereto. And that's just to a definition, that's all. So on that article, any comments? Someone want to make a motion?
Make that motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. The next one is to see if the town will vote to amend 175-3219B, multi-unit dwellings, apartments, or condominium complexes of 12 residential units or more by adding the wording shown in bold as follows. Change from B, at the beginning of each calendar year, the owner shall, or owners, shall file a notarized statement with the building inspector listing the name and family relationship of all occupants residing on the premise. Change to, At the beginning of each calendar year, the owner shall file a notarized statement, in parentheses, an annual in-law affidavit, and that's all that's being added. And so that's what's new. With the building inspector listing the name and family relationship of all occupants residing on the premises. This is when people have more than one person living in there to know what's in there or who's there. I'll take any other action relative to. Any comments on the motion?
Motion.
Second.
Seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. To see if the town will vote to amend 175-13 lots transected by a district boundary line by changing maximum distance beyond the zoning district boundary line from 50 feet to 100 feet as follows. When a lot is transected by a zoning district boundary line, the regulations of the bylaw applicable to the larger part, 50% or greater, of such lot may also, at the option of the lot owner, be deemed to govern in the smaller part of the maximum distance of 100 feet beyond such zoning district boundary line, provided that the buffer areas required in 175-66 of this bylaw are met, or take any other action relative to it. Any discussion on that? On the motion?
Motion.
Motion made.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So moved. To see if the town will vote to delete the note in 175-21 Table of Use Regulations, G, which states note 1, solid waste facilities are prohibited in the technology business district, or take any other action relative thereto. There is no longer a technology business district in the town of Abington, so this needs to be taken out because it refers to something that doesn't exist.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
Mr. Negrelli, I believe would like to speak. I'm going to unmute him if that's okay.
please. You can leave him unmuted if you wish.
Okay.
And
Do you want me to unmute Attorney Riley as well?
surely. I just asked if they be recognized before it's an interrupt, so to speak.
There we go. How's that?
All
Fine.
right, you're in, Rich.
Okay, Rich Negrelli, 340 Diane Circle, on the zoning board too. I just have some questions. Does this open up a possible solid waste facility in the zoning area? We're talking about the, well, I know the town has had a big fight many years ago and it turned into a lawsuit. What is going to stop anyone from building a solid waste facility in the Weymouth line, in the Muppet Zone, or any other area in the town if you take this away?
Well, in the first place, there is no technology business district. So that would have nothing, there is no district. It would be like there'd be, if there was no district R20, R30, R40. I mean, it doesn't exist. So it shouldn't be in our bylaws.
Okay, but the question too is, again, that whole area there was used or was supposed to be used for solid waste facility, and now it's not there. So basically, we could be opening ourselves up to a possible solid waste facility in the area where the technology business district was at one time, correct?
No, but it wouldn't open us up to a solid waste facility in that district.
Is there anything in the town bylaws that say solid waste facilities are not allowed in the town of Abington?
I believe it's in the table of use, right?
I
On the
just could
table
not
of use.
find it. I could not find it. I looked in my book. I just couldn't find it.
Attorney Riley would like to speak. that all right, Wayne?
Yes, that's fine. I don't know what something went wrong with I'm on voice, but I don't see anything anymore.
We see you. Oh,
In the right step.
Go ahead, Sean. We can't hear you.
Hello?
I muted you again. Ask to unmute because we couldn't hear you.
You're talking about Attorney Riley?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
You can still hear me. My picture's gone, but I'm fine.
No, your picture's up.
I got-
I'm typing in Sean to unmute.
Sean's coming back.
Um,
All right, he's back.
Am I still on, Liz?
I
Yeah.
can still see you, Wayne.
There he
I hear
comes.
you.
I know I'm not hearing anything. I just want to.
Yeah.
It just said he
we're
was
waiting
connecting to audio.
to connect.
Liz, if I get off this, just for whatever reason, because I don't know what's going on, but just call me on my cell.
Okay.
Well, for the sake of this meeting, could we continue on and come back to this?
All right, we can do that. If that's all right with you.
Well, I had another question on the next following one too, if you want to go ahead. Yep.
All right, I'll read the next one.
Yep.
To see if the town will vote to add the following language to the Abington zoning bylaws 175-77 site plan review by adding the following 2 new sections. D, design field changes. During the course of construction, if conditions necessitate the alteration of an approved site plan, the applicant must notify the planning board in writing and must have the design changes approved and incorporated into an amended plan, which will require approval by the board. Failure to do so will result in penalties as outlined in section E. E, penalties. Any failure to build in accordance with the approved site plan shall be subject to penalty determined by the board commensurate with the need to mitigate the extent of the failure of the applicant to build the project according to the approved plan, or to have the applicant completely remove the unapproved work, see 175-80 enforcement and 175-81 violated principal penalties, or take any other action thereto. Go ahead, Mr. Crowley. The question?
Oh, it wasn't on that. It was on allow multiple family housing, 12 units or greater in a highway commercial district by special permit.
Okay, we'll do
That was the question I had, but we can just continue until, go on. What are we on, number 7 or number 8? Number 6 or 7?
I was outnumbered at this particular point. We're on the article I just told you about.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, the design field changes.
Yeah, I have no question at all. Nope.
And
No
the
question at all with that. Nope.
reason for this, for those that are listening, is the fact that in many cases, there's been a field change made on a proposed job, on a job that's been approved by the planning board. And we don't see it until the as-built comes in, and the as-built does not agree with the original. And in many cases, the builder will call us and say, hey, we've run into a problem here. We need to move this. We need to do that, whatever it is. And we will give them a permission or tell them they have to do something different. But the problem is after the work is done, they come in and say, well, what are we going to do about this? Well, maybe you should have done something about it before, but it all of a sudden, the people that are on the project, in some cases, people have moved in, and it's something that needs to be addressed, and there needs to be something done. And quite often they can't just change it back to what it was because they've already done it. So they built a building that's not even in the foundation line, which we've had that happen. And there needs to be some kind of enforcement rather than almost to the point where it's easy to ask for forgiveness and permission. And that's the vote that the planning board's been in on too many occasions. And that's the
Right.
reason for this. Does someone on the board want to make a motion?
Well, I have a couple of questions.
Surely.
So we had brought this up, I think, last year, but we took it off because I think town council had a question with it.
Yes.
Was that issue resolved?
I've sent it off to them. I haven't received a response.
Okay. And as a adjoining question, did we ever receive a final design plan from 999 Adams Street? They came in a couple of times to talk about it, but I don't think they ever came back with a final one, did they?
No, I have to, I was approached, I would say, in the last 6 to 8 weeks by somebody brand new there who wants to try to wrap all of that up.
Okay.
And so I told him the status of that project, and I haven't heard anything else. And just while we're here talking about statuses of projects, this has nothing to do with any of this, but I just wanted to let you know that I was speaking with Carl Garvey today on a separate project, but he told me that David Federico passed away. So he's the one who's been trying to get Robbins Ave finished, and if I remember correctly, he owns that yellow dilapidated house on Washington Street that he was going to make.
Go by the golf course.
Yeah, right near the golf course, like a townhouse or something. I believe that was his property. I'm not 100% sure, but it was very sudden and unexpected.
I just saw somebody outside that yellow house 2 days ago.
Interesting. So anyway, I apologize. I just wanted to, before I forgot to tell you.
That's too bad.
On the article, does someone want to make a motion on this?
I'll make the motion.
Motion made, is it seconded?
Second,
Any further discussion? On the article, all those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Unanimous. Is Mr. Riley back on?
I just asked him to unmute. Oh, Sean? There he is.
Still can't hear us.
No audio? You can hear us, but we can't hear you. All right. So the offer still stands. If you want to email me, because I know it's easier to type in an email than texting, your comments, I'll be happy to pass them along to the board.
We just need to tell Sean, we just had the biggest question is whether or not the town allows solid waste facilities and in what
He
area.
actually did respond to that. Section H6I, use chart, no landfill or transfer station except by special permit in the industrial zone.
Okay, all right.
All
Does that
right.
answer the question, Rick?
Yes, thank you. But I did want to ask one question on the
Okay.
other part, the other part of the amendment
On the other part of the amendment of what?
of number 5, 17521. There's two parts to it here. To allow multiple family housing, 12 units or greater.
Oh, we're not there yet.
Not there yet.
Okay, all right. Okay.
We need to follow our schedule.
Oh, I must not have the same thing as you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It actually is on the agenda, which is what he may have gotten, the ad. It's
Okay.
all one because it's amending the use chart.
Oh, okay.
So
I'm sorry.
all of
I don't
that-
have that one. I apologize.
So that's all right. So actually, you're right. It is all in one.
Yeah.
It's all number 5, and to allow multi-family housing, 12 units or greater in highway
Yeah.
commercial districts.
Right, okay.
They have this, which is the draft of
Draft.
the articles.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Hey,
He's here.
Liz, a quick note.
Yeah.
I don't,
The zoning use table that's online currently
Yep.
appears to be outdated. It still has the industrial use zone on it.
Oh,
We still have industrial though.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I got confused. You're right. I apologize.
No worries.
so,
And the only reason I know that is because 662 Adams Street is in the industrial, so. Normally I wouldn't have that off the top of my head.
Yep. I got confused.
all right, so we're going to discuss the article that we brought up earlier, going back on the eliminating the solid waste facilities in the technology business district, which no longer exists. So could we have a motion on that?
motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Like,
Unanimous. No one
Mr.
opposed.
Chairman,
Yes.
could I just clarify so I could answer Mr. Negrelli's question? So if anyone watches this meeting, it's clear. All that you're doing with that vote is erasing a note that remained because it should have been deleted back when we deleted the technology business district. Back when Mr. Negrelli talked about the controversy about the landfill, the transfer station. Back many years ago, we changed the bylaw to make it much more difficult to put in a landfill. We took it out of that area, and I believe now the chart says you can only do a landfill or something like that in an industrial zone with a special permit.
okay, thank you. Thanks.
What you're doing here doesn't change anything in the use chart. It just gets rid of a note that has absolutely no relevance anymore. That's all. And did you vote on the site plan review one already?
They did.
Can I comment on that?
Yeah.
It's up to the chairman.
Go ahead.
So did you approve it as printed, basically with the penalty section in there?
Yes, we did.
Because I believe, if I recall, and this is now several months ago, that was one of the concerns. Well, there was a couple of concerns. We need to figure a way to prevent people from making changes out in the field and then coming in and asking for forgiveness, when it's too late to do anything or at least difficult to do anything or costly. But we were concerned, I was concerned on behalf of being in the building trade part of it, that there's always alterations to any site, whether it's topography or you end up putting this, a stone, a wall, or you shift something over a foot because you hit ledge, or a pipe has to move. There's always something that's moving. But the way it's written right now, it says if there's any alteration, then you have to notify the board in writing and have the design changes approved on an amended plan, which essentially means you stop any commercial development until you go to the next planning board meeting and get approval, or you proceed at your own risk. And there's got to be a better way. Number one, I wanted to at least put in the word material alteration instead of just any alteration, which is in section D. The penalty area, we'll just have to figure that one out later. I mean, unfortunately, we're too far down the road, but additionally, if there could be some way where the planning board could have a representative from the board come to a site, between the monthly meetings, if there was an issue, and I know that gets, there's an authority issue there, but, a building inspector will come to a site if you have to change a building plan because you got to move a wall or, brace a brace or do something. We need something similar, maybe, if you're going to implement this type of penalty, then you need to have something that will allow a project to continue. I mean, if we were doing a municipal project or a school project or whatever, and there's penalties when you don't finish, you really put a contractor in an impossible position. where something on the site dictates that something has to be moved, you're probably going to approve it anyhow, type of thing, but they're being told, be careful now, they could be penalized. Those are some of my concerns, which we voiced earlier, and I don't know how to specifically address it. Maybe there's a town that has a similar bylaw we could steal. I don't know.
You know, we referred it to town council because that was one of the questions, and what is the penalty and who determines it and all the things that go along with it. But it has been a bone of contention quite often on the board, and one of the board members wanted this in there, and I understand fully the reason for it. And maybe if it needs to be cleaned up, maybe if something could be added on do it as I don't know what we can do at this point, but we just keep kicking the can down the road, and we've had this in here for a couple of years at this point.
Well, I just ask if you consider revoting that section D and making it say material alteration or something similar, that might be enough to kind of get us to move forward, but still acknowledge that minor alterations are always going to happen with any single family house, with any target commercial store.
And normally we have no problem with that either when that happens, but I would ask that someone make a motion on B to add material alterations on B.
Or we could amend the motion to approve on that article to include the following in section D.
B, I think it is.
Yeah, D, right?
D as in dog.
Yeah, so
Material alteration of the approved site plan under D as in dog?
Under B as in boy.
I say I have it as D also. I don't have a B.
I have D.
I haven't got it in front of me, so is that what it is?
It's D as in dog.
And Mr. Chairman, just to let you know, you could always send the engineer out.
Right.
I know that's costly to some extent, but that's what used to happen in the past.
Right, and we have done that I recently, and when someone's, in a couple of cases, they've called me, and I've told them that they need to get the engineer out there and what his recommendation is. And I would tell them that I can't do it because it has to come before the board anyway. So I know PMP has done that for me, and so has Dave done it for me.
I'm gonna say, I wouldn't have a problem with that if it's just a minor change and the engineer agreed with it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's D as in dog, right?
And I've made the motion to amend the motion to approve that article with the following changes in section D as spelled out by Mr. Riley.
Right.
You want material alteration of the approved site plan? Right?
Just
Conditions necessitate. And then do you want to add minor changes to be reviewed by, that they must notify the planning board, and that minor changes must be reviewed by the engineer, the reviewing engineer, with a report back to the board?
I personally would suggest you just leave it as putting in the word material. If it's like, for example, a mailbox shown on a site plan is relocated 10 feet for whatever reason, I don't think the planning board is going to object. I don't think anyone thinks that's material. I think it's minor, and we would show that on the as-built site plan at the end. I don't think it's reason to submit a plan in the middle of construction and go to a board hearing to get approval. I think that's kind of material. And I think at some point, though, there's a question, is this material? I think that's when we make the phone call, probably to your office, Liz, and say, can we have the engineer come out and look at this? We want to make sure that this is not something that we need to stop and get the planning board to approve, or can you agree that this is a minor thing that we'll just show on the final plan? You know, when it's in question, I think it'll be upon the developer to say, this might be material, I need to make a phone call.
Yeah, at some point, it's got to be determined whether or not it's minor or not, and somebody's got to do that. And I don't know if a board member wants that responsibility.
Right, I think we'd go to the engineer who's been assigned to review the original plan to begin with.
Right.
Are we all set with that then?
Well, we had to amend the motion. I've made a motion to amend approval of that article with section D, adding the word material in the right place. And that, and that needs to be seconded.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On the original, and then now on the motion with the material added, motion for that.
Motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? I have no camera, so I apologize for, and motion carries. Next article, to see if the town will vote to amend 17532D4 by deleting the language shown and strike, that's going to be cleaned up a little bit, Liz.
Right through.
Okay.
Yep.
And strike through and replace it with the language shown in bold as follows. Dimension requirements. Dimension requirements for development of 12 housing units or more in any zoning district within the town of Abington require that the building shall be at least 60 feet from any lot line that abuts the proposed development, 60 feet from any street line, 3 feet from any parking area, and crossed out would be 50 feet apart in the event a variance for more than one building on a lot is granted by the zoning board of appeals, and that it would be changed to 50 feet from any other residential building granted for the site, and then 5 is, that's what the change is, and then 5 no more than 35 feet in height or take any relative action relative thereto. Is there any comment on that?
Where'd the language for this come from?
I believe.
I don't know. It was 3 times ago at this point.
Yeah.
I can explain.
Fine, please.
This is something when Dan Crane was reviewing all the zoning bylaws, and he was looking for inconsistencies, and I noted this one. The language which basically trying to make the zoning bylaw more consistent. Under section 175.32, this deals with multifamily projects that have 12 or more units, and it has different regulations, some of which are listed there, 1 through 5. The 4th one says buildings have to be 50 feet apart, 50 feet apart if the zoning board has granted a variance to allow more than one building on a lot. Well, the zoning board doesn't grant variances to allow more than one building on a lot with projects with 12 or more units. It's already assumed and allowed under that section of the bylaw. So the condition about the variance by the zoning board conflicts with other sections of the bylaw. If it was something else, if it was like a smaller, if it was 6 or 8 units and you wanted more than one building, you would need a variance. But once you get to 12 or over, different rules apply. So we were essentially taking out the reference to the need for a variance because it doesn't exist, but keeping in the exact same language that the buildings have to be 50 feet apart. And we specified that the residential buildings have to be 50 feet apart, meaning if there was a detached garage like at Abington Woods, the one up off of Summer Street, whatever it is, theoretically that could be 40 feet or 30 feet from the building if the planning board allowed. But the residential buildings have to maintain the 50 feet. So that's all it's doing. It's really not changing the bylaw, it's cleaning it up.
Any other comments? Someone want to make a motion?
Make the motion.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Next one, to see if the town will vote to amend 175-21 to allow multi-family housing developments consisting of less than 12 units in the highway commercial zone only with a variance. Multi-family housing, we got to fix that one up, with 12 units and greater would be allowed in highway commercial zone with a special permit as shown below. And you can see the schedule there. On highway commercial, multi-unit, 12 less than 12 is not allowed. More than 12 is by special permit from the zoning board of appeals.
Mr. Chairman, after the board finishes their discussion, Mr. Negrelli would like to speak.
We can have, well, someone want to comment on that first?
So why don't I explain it for anybody listening in on this, because I'm the one that wrote this. The idea being right now, a lot of our zoning bylaws don't define density when it comes to multifamily housing. So when they say multifamily housing, it could be 3 units, could be 25 units. So the idea was that in our commercial highway districts, we're starting to see some of the land being converted into residential uses. And when that happens, we then lose that as a potential commercial highway use. So my thought was, if someone wants to come in and build a larger development, that's fine. That's what it's there for. It's on a state highway. It's got access. It makes sense. What I don't think is smart planning is to have these one-off 5-6 unit townhouses that are kind of sideways and slid in because all the lots are long but narrow, and then just have row after row of these, 6-7 unit developments, multifamily developments. So the idea is, all right, if you have a big project, if you want to stitch a few of these lots together and put something larger together, okay, that makes sense. But otherwise, we'd like to really conserve this land for commercial purposes.
Mr. McRowley?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to bring up that the intent of the highway district is it's a commercial zoning. So the idea of who's going to be handing out the special permit for units larger than 12?
You currently do, right?
Okay, zoning board. Okay. All right. I just want to make sure nothing there has changed. But the only thing is, again, the intent of the highway commercial zoning is for businesses and small retail and stuff like that. But I do understand what you're saying. It has happened where these smaller multi-unit buildings are being built. So I can understand what you're saying in that aspect. You see a change in a highway commercial zone, and you just want to know exactly how it's going to be controlled, because I do understand what you're saying, because the attempt to bring business to the town, and we're always talking about bringing business to the town, and that's what the highway commercial district pretty much was put together for. And I hate to lose that. Everyone's crying and screaming about taxes, and everyone's crying and screaming about businesses not coming in. And you hate to see all these multiple dwellings being built. That's all I have to say.
Does someone want to make a motion?
Can I ask a question, Wayne?
Sure.
I agree too with the general fear. I just want to have a little tripping hazard on this one. The problem you get, it's interesting. So it's saying like 12 or more units was a special permit. Under 12 units is a variance. The problem is that same 175 section 32, because once you hit that 12 or more unit limit or minimum, then other dimensional requirements kick in. So for example, with 12 units, you need at least 100,000 square foot lot. You need at least 200 feet of frontage. And it's very hard to find that type of property in our highway commercial zone, because unfortunately our highway commercial properties, most of them are relatively small. So you can't fit either a large commercial building or a large residential building. And the problem that we keep coming into when people are trying to develop or sell their property on Route 18 is the lots aren't big enough. A commercial developer is looking for more than one source of revenue, more than one tenant, because as we just saw, businesses close and revenues are gone and banks get antsy. So the bigger the building or the more multiple tenants, the better. Same thing with the number of units. So unfortunately, you see a lot of the smaller lots with like an old house right now kind of stays there until someone has a ton of money who can buy 3 or 4 lots. But you're talking $500,000 for every lot. So I just wanted to put that out there that I'm not sure that this makes anything easier. It might make things more difficult. We'd love to have more commercial in Abington. This is another, and I'll say it again, another reason why a town planner at some point will be really valuable to the town of Abington, help kind of make our zoning bylaws work a little bit better together, so that we're not changing one section, realizing that there's already 3 other sections that don't let you achieve what you're trying to do with the amendment you're making. So that's my 2 cents. I don't know what's going to happen with Route 18. It's a brand new Route 18.
I want to make a motion. Is a member going to make a motion? Is there a motion?
I move to approve, to support.
So you make the motion.
Yep.
Do I have it seconded?
I think it needs a little more research into what's, I don't know. I have a different opinion in the highway commercial. It's there. You need residential to support businesses. Maybe we put this off and discuss it a little more and get some more input.
So if no one's going to second that, does someone want to make another motion to not to have this on the town warrant?
Bruce seconded it.
Who did?
Bruce did.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, I'm listening to Bob too. I think this does need further discussion.
So,
put it on the May agenda, or do you want to not do it at all?
And I hate to kick the can down the road, but I hate to completely limit the smaller units from the highway commercial zone. And maybe you go 6, maybe you go 6, maybe you go 8, maybe, and I'm listening to what Sean was saying. All them lots are small. Are we going to end up with nothing there? I don't know. I don't know the answer.
So at this point, we have a motion on the floor. We can vote it down or we can vote it up. Or if someone wants to make a subsequent motion to postpone this or to pass over it at this point, or whether or not we want to discuss it at our May meeting. I don't know whether we'll still be able to put it in the warrant or not.
I would suggest we pass over it and then bring it up again, maybe, I don't care when, but next year, in the next meeting, I don't care.
I'll second that.
Well, okay, so you want to withdraw your motion? Oh, your second? Bruce?
Yes.
All right, so we won't have a motion on the floor for that. The motion right now is to pass over. Motion to pass over. Any further discussion? So on the motion to pass over, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
One vote to pass over.
2 votes.
2 votes to pass over. I guess I'll make I'll agree with that motion and pass over also. And all those opposed? Rick, are you opposed?
I am.
Okay. So motion 3-1 to pass over. If this thing could be brought up at the next, if we can get it as the town warrant, and whatever the case may be, we'll go with that. So the motion is to pass over and so voted. The next article is to see if the town will vote to amend 17577C site plan review and approval by adding section H as follows. Structures facing streets. Structures with main entrances, fronts facing away from the street shall incorporate additional architectural and landscape details along the street front. If the structure is not visible from the street, the applicant may request a waiver or take any other action relative thereto. It's open for discussion. Anyone have any want to discuss it?
And again, this is in response to a number of situations where we've seen the structures sideways, essentially. And so what we're left with are undersized windows that are typically not seen from the street, the utility boxes, that sort of thing. So if we're going to, like the one that Goslin did on Route 18, where it's sideways and we're looking at the side of the house, and we would never otherwise see a house that looks like that fronting on the street. So the idea is, all right, if this is going to be situated sideways, at least treat up the street side of it a bit.
You're looking to improve the streetscape, right?
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
Can I suggest you actually say that? Like, shall incorporate additional architectural and landscaping details to improve the streetscape?
It sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
That way anyone who reads it knows exactly what they should put on their plans.
That's
I
anyway.
mean, it pretty much says that already, right? Additional architectural and landscape details along the street front.
I think we all know what it means. I'm always thinking about the guy from out of town who's reading the bylaw blank and doesn't know the history of it.
I'm perfectly okay being more specific.
I'll make that motion.
So after landscape details to improve the streetscape, right?
Yes.
And eliminate along the street front.
Right. It's semantics, but I think it makes it clear.
Right. So that.
Right, so you wanted to say structures facing streets, structures with main entrances, fronts facing away from the street shall incorporate additional architectural and landscaping details to improve the streetscape.
Yes,
That's
Okay.
fine.
that's what the motion is. So, any further discussion? Someone want to make a motion?
Motion.
Second.
And any further discussion?
That's on the amendment, right?
Yes.
Yes.
All those approve of the motion as presented?
Aye.
Aye.
And anyone opposed? So that's unanimous. And on the floodplain wetlands protection district,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
hold on. We didn't do 17539D multiple use plan development district, which is on the hearing notice, but I neglected to include it in the draft zoning articles. I actually have a copy of it, if you wouldn't mind me reading it, and then you guys can act on it. It's what you've heard before.
Please read it.
Okay, to see if the town will vote to amend the Abington zoning bylaws, section 17539, multiple use plan development district, section D, quote, tract area and frontage, end quote, by reducing the tract size from the present requirement of 10 acres to 3 acres and to read as follows, semicolon, D period, tract area and frontage. The tract shall be in a single or consolidated ownership at the time of application shall be at least 3 acres in size with a minimum of 200 feet of frontage unless otherwise allowed by a special permit by the planning board. If the proposed developments are to be subdivided under the rules and regulations governing the subdivision of land, each resulting lot shall comply with the requirements of this section. All internal driveways providing access to parking areas and buildings shall comply with the design and construction standards of the rules and regulations governing the subdivision of land as amended, whether or not the driveway network constitutes a subdivision, or take any other action relative thereto. And Mr. Negrelli would like to speak on this too. I need to unmute him.
Please.
I'm getting there.
Liz, do you want me to share that on the screen?
Yeah, if you don't mind, that'd be great.
Did I do it?
You did.
Yes, you did.
Thank you.
By me, Sean, I'm not on anything.
I'm glad to hear that you're not on anything, Mr.
I
Chairman.
know, this is, something went wrong.
Okay, the question, of course, I have is about the zoning board has the variance power for the frontage. And this proposal would take away the zoning board's power for a variance. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and that is the question I have. Why is the planning board taking away the variance power from the zoning board? Why is that necessary? That's a big question.
Well, it can be part of a subdivision type operation, so that's what we thought we should have on.
Well, because this connects right to a property that we had turned down. So, and if this gets approved by the town, the variance that we did not approve by Mr. Riley's clients, this project will go through. And we deemed this project, and you know what we're talking about, basically on Chestnut Street, that was not, we felt that was not safe for the town. That was our vote, and we all agreed on it. And now all of a sudden we have this bylaw change that's taking the variance away from the frontage of the zoning board. And we feel like this is just like a kick in the head from you guys. We don't understand this. This doesn't seem right. Again, we voted on the property, and this reflects right back to it, this decision.
Well, in the first place, it was approved for quite a few housing units in there originally.
Yeah, that was when they had access from, they had 2 ways of access, not just one.
They still probably do.
No, they don't. They don't have 2-way access. They have one.
What happened?
They have one.
What happened to that land?
It got sold.
Oh, is it sold? I wasn't aware that it was sold.
Can I offer some? Mr. Negrelli, this wasn't written in response to your denial of the variance for this one property. This was put together, again, when Dan Crane was hired and was looking at trying to promote more development in the Muppet because nothing was going on up in the Muppet district, and we were trying to get some development going. It was basically the reduction of the as it's written now, you have to have a parcel that has at least 10 acres and 200 feet of frontage. And that incredibly limits any options out there to do any development on in the Muppet area, which is basically on the east side of Chestnut Street and the north side of Hancock Street. And there's also a Muppet district area over on Adams Street. So this isn't only for that one decision you guys made. I think it was last year. This was actually, I believe, drafted before that. But as you know, this has been pushed off with town meetings and COVID. So this is doing 2 things. It's reducing the minimum to 3 acres. If someone came to the planning or zoning board with a site smaller than 3 acres, that would require a variance. And it's changing the 200-foot frontage, from a variance to a special permit. You're right, it does that. It's making it more flexible to get some sort of development in that Muppet district.
Okay, but all I can say is that the zoning board went through this with the neighbors. They all talked to us about it at our meeting. Anyone can look it up. we videotape all our meetings. So you can go in and you can see our decision. You can read our decision. And our decision on this particular property was that it was unsafe for the neighborhood. And if someone gets killed there by going around that corner and smashing into a large truck that's carrying pipes, it's not going to be on the zoning board. It's going to be on the planning board. This directly, and it's been done to us before, you are taking away something from the zoning board. The zoning board is the last step for the town. We don't vote for anybody else except for the town. That's what the zoning board stands up for. And it has since I've been on the board. It is not for a private company or development. It's for the people who live in that area. You are directly taking away the variance frontage for that piece of property. And if someone gets killed there, it's on you people.
Mr. Negrelli,
Thank you, Mr. Negrelli, for telling me that it's all the planning board's fault and the zoning board doesn't do anything. And when someone gets killed on a property, that is something that's sent out and that is wrong.
Well, all I can say is that is a very dangerous piece
The
of
way
property.
you are talking about the planning board. And we've heard about this from the zoning board for many years. And I take offense to that we are trying to kill people in the town of Abington.
I'm not saying you're trying to kill
You
people.
are.
You just
I
did.
think that if something does happen to someone there and they look back at the zoning board's decision, it's not going to be on us, because the neighborhood, the proposal that was brought in front of us was considered dangerous by all of us, including the neighbors. So I don't mean to be harsh. I really don't. But
Well, you are.
this has been happening to the
People
zoning
get killed
board a
all
lot,
the time.
where these bylaws are changed. These bylaws are changed after we turn something down. So that's all I'm saying.
Just remember, Mr. Negrelli, that town meeting agrees.
Yes. Okay. You're right. Okay. All right. Very good.
Now, that being said, I happen to think you're right on this.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it. But, all right, I'm not going to bother you anymore. Go ahead.
Just for the record, I didn't draft this. This was not my submission. But I'm agreeing with you, Richard. You interpreted it correctly.
Thank you, sir.
Any further comment?
I would like to make a motion to amend this to not give the variance, excuse me, the special permit power to the planning board, to keep it where it is.
Yeah,
But the rest of it, I'm fine with.
we haven't got a motion yet, and so that's all on comment. So if anybody would like to make a motion, that's fine with me. Someone would like to make a motion?
I thought I just did.
Oh, okay, but you were in a discussion. If that's a motion.
No, my motion was to support or approve minus that. Yeah, exactly.
So why don't you read it the way you want it?
Motion to support, provided that the first sentence is changed to read, the tract shall be in a single and consolidated ownership at the time of application, shall be at least 3 acres in size with a minimum of 200 feet of frontage, period.
Moving the line unless otherwise allowed by special permit by the planning board.
Correct.
And the next sentence will start with if the proposed development.
Correct.
Okay.
So that's your motion.
That's my motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
On the motion, any further discussion?
I just want to make a comment. I think, my own opinion, we did a lot. If you want to go back to that one project, I know this article didn't have to do with that project. It was drafted before that project. The planning board spent a lot of time on that, and engineers to make that site as safe as possible. To leave it up to 3 members of the zoning board just to say no because the neighbors don't want it. I'm just not in favor of that, but that's just my comment.
Could I respond to that?
Totally.
Could I respond to that, sir?
Yes.
We just try to use our common sense on that property. That's all. That's all we're doing as the zoning board. We try to look at the property. We try to look at the neighborhood. We try to look at what's going in there. We tried to look at all the things, and I can understand engineering, all that stuff, but to us, as a 3-board member, we decided that it was too dangerous. That's all I can say about that. I apologize, but that's all I can say.
No, and I guess part of my problem is it's 3 members, or potentially 1 member, that's making that decision to deny something. That's my comment, that's all.
That's how the zoning boards run, sir.
I know. And we're a 5-member board.
I do understand. Yeah.
I do. I very well understand. That's my opinion.
On the motion, any more discussion? On the motion, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Do we have 3 votes?
Yep, everybody voted in the affirmative.
Okay, motion passed.
Thank you.
You're welcome. On the floodplain wetlands protection district,
Okay, before you get into this, I just wanted to let you know, you have a copy of it. And since that time, I have gone back. The DCR has been in touch with the office multiple times to make sure we're on track to get this done by July 6th. So I have gone back and forth with him, and I went back in, I think Thursday before I sent you guys this stuff, and filled in some blanks. So I think your copies still have blanks, like the date we adopted the amendment, which will be May 24th. The name of Abington needs to be included in there in a couple of places. And then the floodplain administrator, the town manager has decided that the building commissioner / zoning enforcement officer will be the floodplain administrator. That wasn't filled in yet, but now it is on the brand new copy. So I just wanted you to know before you start on that, that those little, whatever's missing, those blanks have been filled in. And also Attorney Riley has done a read through and made some grammatical changes, which he forwarded a copy to me this afternoon. If anybody wants to see that, I'll be happy to send it to you now. But that's where we are in the FEMA floodplain wetland protection bylaw.
Is there a quick summary on what's changing in this?
No. But the quick answer on that is no. The state is, as you know, is making us do this, and this is their model bylaw. So I, honest to God, have not read the whole thing front to back to tell you what's changing. They're adding a lot of stuff, I believe, for the protection of the floodplain and wetland protection district.
this is a typical situation that we get from the Commonwealth that says we have to pass this regulation, and I've got it in front of me, but however, it refers to so many different bylaws and everything else in this thing that I have no idea what the federal law is and all that other stuff that goes with it. I know that some people have found out that when this gets passed, they have to go through a lot of legal work with their insurance company and everything else that goes along with it.
Been there, done that.
I know you have, Bob, and perhaps you could comment on that, but
There is a process, if you find yourself in one of these districts to, unfortunately, it cost you money. I did my own personal experience. I did get my money back from the insurance once I proved that I wasn't in it. But I still had to pay the engineer.
If there's any consolation, this is what most of the towns, in the state that are affected by this are doing.
Yeah.
Everybody has to adopt it.
The intention is good too, you understand.
Yep.
I don't
Right
have,
now, it's everybody in the Cape Cod watershed has to adopt this. We're going to probably have to go through this exercise again because we're also in the Charles River watershed. There's about that much of the town that's in the Charles River watershed. So when they decide that change needs to happen and we need to adopt, this will already be in place, but we're going to have to walk through it and update the maps as well. So.
Well, this is going to take some explaining on town meeting floor to understand this, to make sure that
You're
people
doing that
understand.
for us? Are you volunteering?
I was never in the Army, but
I see your hand in the air.
I don't have a problem advancing this, but I would wonder if town council can provide us a redlined version, just so we can explain that this is what's changing. Because I'd hate to approve this and then 2 months from now we started hearing from residents, but I didn't realize I can't do this in my yard now, or whatever it might be.
yeah, I agree with Rick. I think I'd asked the town council to be at this meeting tonight.
Council has reviewed it.
Okay.
I mean, one of the things like that I was mentioning about is if you go down to where it says floodway, it's base Massachusetts Code, Chapter 2, Section 202. Well, obviously, I don't know what that is. I mean, obviously, I can look it up if I want to spend another, And then they refer to U.S. Code on the next paragraph of Federal Regulations, Title 44, Part 59, also reference to standard ASCE 2414. What you see in this article that we have printed, without telling you in a footnote what all those articles are, makes it a little hard to understand. And then by the same token, the Commonwealth is saying you must sign this anyway. So I don't know where that leaves the town of Abington.
Can I offer some comments?
Sure.
In my reading of this, unfortunately, it's designed to be implemented by every town. So it does have some stuff in it that would apply to coastlines and dredging and things like that doesn't affect the town of Abington because we're not a coastal community. It does not change the Abington's local floodplain map. There's no change to that. What it's acknowledging is that, as I think we all know, FEMA has recently updated the FEMA flood maps. And so it's basically saying refer to the new set of FEMA flood maps. And it puts some definitions in. If you're going to do work in a FEMA flood zone, then you need a lot of different permits, more than just a special permit because you're in the Abington floodplain. And just if you remember, the Abington floodplain map is very old. And if we could do one thing, I'd love to update that map because it's very old and very vague. The FEMA flood map covers much fewer areas in town, but if you're building or clearing land or doing anything in a FEMA flood zone, then you're subject to FEMA, some flood regulations, wetlands regulations, potentially federal regulations. So it doesn't really change anything that I can see regarding special permits to build in Abington's floodplain and wetlands protection overlay district. I went through it and just tried to clean up a few things where they were referring to this as the floodplain district and then the floodplain overlay district and the floodplain overlay and wetlands protection district. So I tried to get consistent in there and just use kind of the same terms throughout. So really not changing the content, but just changing the delivery in using some of the definitions that they use. There's one point in there where it talks about how, and Liz just mentioned the, what do they call it? The floodplain administrator. Town council suggests it's usually the building commissioner or the town planner. We don't have a town planner, so it kind of defaults to our building inspector. But then there's another section later that talks about in a riverine situation, the applicant and the conservation agent must notify some of the state agencies. I suggested we don't have a conservation agent, so maybe that should say either the chairperson of the Conservation Commission, or is that also the building inspector? I don't know. That's in section 8 of Part H. There's also a couple of numerical things. The lettering is off. So I tried to fix that in the version that I sent to Liz. I'm sorry, I did that today. I'm trying to send myself a copy of it now so I can actually post it for you, but for whatever reason, it's not going through to my computer. I'm fighting my computer tonight, much like you guys are, apparently. So it's really not a lot of change to what the planning board and the zoning board normally do. It just kind of puts some other details into, if you're in a FEMA flood zone trying to do work, you're going to have some more permits and what to do. And also you have to notify like the Department of Recreation and Conservation, things like that. or conservation and recreation it is. If I can get it, I'll pull it up.
You know, with it just being technical, you know, changes and things like that, I would suggest that that's what we go along with. We'll have another meeting coming up. I know we're expected to have this thing by, what is it, July 6th?
It has to be adopted by July 6th. But
So,
town meeting is scheduled for May 24th. And it looks like we're going to have hearings on 2 more articles in the May meeting.
all right, so perhaps we could have it all typed up and ready for the May meeting, and we can still put it in the
I
town.
want the changes Attorney Riley has sent and the changes I made and where those things needed to be fixed.
And
And
again,
the only other thing, I'll just let you know, DCR, in 175-35, the scope authority and delineation of the district, they wanted the language and any amendments thereto removed. Based on my experience, this language will likely be rejected by the Attorney General. Basically, you can't adopt a district that could later change by amendment. Was his, I'm dealing with somebody named Eric Carlson at DCR, and that was his thought. So anyway, that language was taken out on my copy, my fresh copy. I'm not sure that it's in yours either, but I think town council had added it and then he suggested it come out. So.
Liz, again, I'd really like to try to get a red line copy from town council so we can understand what is changing from the current status.
So if we could do that, not vote on it tonight and bring it up.
That's fine.
Well,
But
the
just,
thing is, they didn't, I don't think they took this copy and went against our old copy because in effect, we have to adopt the
That's
model
fine.
bylaw. And I mean, I can give you the red line copy that they looked at, but in effect, we have to repeal what exists and replace it with this.
nope, I totally get that. And we're not voting no on this, but I'd still just
Yep.
like to explain, all right, this is what's changing.
So what's the outcome if we don't vote on it?
None.
Just that.
And nobody can get flood insurance.
It all revolves around flood insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Rick, are you asking me to ask town council to go line by line through this version and our current version and tell you what the changes are?
Yeah, I mean, there's a simple Microsoft Word way to do it, but I don't know if they've already done it or.
I don't think they have. They looked at the version that was provided under the model bylaw.
Okay.
I'm just afraid that that's going to be a costly.
Well, I just want to be able to explain to people what's changing. And right now I
Okay.
can't do that.
Okay.
They added like a definition section, so they changed. If you look at our current zoning bylaw, they've enlarged it a little bit. But most of the beef that was in our zoning bylaw is still there. If you look at, hopefully you'll have time to look at my red line version, which I think if town council looks at, she'll agree with most of what I suggested because it's really just cleaning it up. Like we skipped a letter heading, so I noticed it. So, instead of having sections, what was it, A through O, it's actually A through P. Just things like that where you need to approve it so it's correct. And again, being consistent with the wording throughout, and I guess the board or the town has to make that determination about whether you're anointing the building inspector in those 2 sections I mentioned, or the chairman of the conservation in those 2 sections, or one in the other. But that's up to this board to make that decision.
What's the pleasure of the board on a motion? You
I
want,
would just suggest we wait for the cleaned up version and do it at our next meeting.
a motion to pass over this evening and bring it up with the next.
Just to continue it to the May meeting.
Yes.
Yes. Bob made that motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
It's something, obviously, people are gonna have trouble getting flood insurance if we don't do something with it.
No, I mean, the issue here is we will act. We just want to make sure
Right.
that we totally understand what we're voting on.
Yep.
Great. Is there anything else to be brought up on zoning? Liz?
Did that. We did that. We did that. Nope, I'll just let you know, there was a petition article that was submitted to the town clerk's office today that you guys are going to have to hold a hearing on May 3rd, and that was to increase the number of members at a zoning board of appeals from 3 to 5. And then
That's interesting.
it is.
Is Rich, are you still on here?
It wasn't me that did the petition, so.
No, it wasn't.
I thought it was Rick.
I would agree with it, but I didn't do the petition.
No, and then the second one is on the marijuana delivery. So she's drafting that hearing notice for me right now, and then all of that will get sent out to be advertised. But other than that, we're done. We'll do 2 more in May.
Okay.
Did I hear 2?
You got to
The
do the
marijuana
petition article
delivery
and
and-
then.
Oh, just the articles, not 2 meetings.
No, no more like. Oh, wait a minute, Rich Negrelli has raised his hand. Hold on. I'm unmuting him.
Yeah, what was that again? Did you say about the zoning board?
There was a petition article submitted. Today's the last day the warrant is open. And there was a petition article to increase the number of voting members from 3 to 5 on the zoning board of appeals.
From 3 to 5. And do we know where that came from by any chance?
I'm actually not sure, but you could ask the town.
I don't even know if
clerk
that's
tomorrow.
legal. We would check with town council on that one.
I don't know. I just was
You might
told.
want to check with town
There
council on
were
that one
6 articles
because,
that came in today. Yeah,
Yep.
not my bailiwick. I was
Yep.
just told that 6 articles came in today, and I asked if any of them.
because we're
had to
lucky if
do
we
with the
have
zoning board.
3 people showing up in a meeting or 4. So we don't even have 5 people on the board right now. So I don't know how that would work. So
don't
just
know.
to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Yep, the board has to hold a hearing on it because it's amendment to the zoning bylaw.
Okay, but I'm just saying we right now only have 4 members. So
And
All
by law, we have to, if they put in by petition, we have to have a hearing for it. So it would be on our May. So I hope you'll be there for the May 3rd meeting in May.
yes, I just wonder if town council might want to look at that one though. I question that.
They probably haven't even seen it yet because it just got presented today, I think.
Okay, thank you.
But by law, we have to hold a hearing.
Yep.
Is it,
Can we ask that question?
Yes.
Okay.
I think they're all gonna get sent to town council, but I will ask that one, because I'm gonna have to advertise that tomorrow in order
Yeah, I
to make
mean,
the meeting.
I can't see how it's illegal, but who am I? I don't know.
Yeah. All right, so
There's plenty of 5-member boards out there.
the petition article. All right,
so there's nothing else to come before the meeting, a motion to be in order?
To adjourn?
Yes.
Motion.
Made and seconded, any further discussion? No, there isn't any on that, so all those in favor of closing the meeting.
Before we leave, I have a question for Liz.
Okay.
Hey, Liz, just a quick question. The Affordable Housing Trust is meeting this week, tomorrow night.
Yep.
And you're going to send out an agenda? And all that?
You should have received one from Kenny Coyle.
Okay.
All
But
right, you
tomorrow
should
night at what
receive
time?
the agenda in minutes. It's at 6:30 and you're in the Buckley room.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are we meeting in person after this?
May 3rd, we're meeting in person.
Yay. Yay.
Although the limits in the building as a total have changed, but the 6 feet separation in person still applies. So we can still only have about 22 people in the Carter hearing room. But we can go back, because anybody and their brother can meet in the building. We can have up to 100 people. But they all just can't be in that room. So.
Okay, so technically I'm on the motion to adjourn. Motion to be made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Good night,
Opposed?
everyone.
All,
See you guys.
good night, everyone. Thanks.
Good night.
See ya.